Yesterday and overnight, we saw the most intense escalation that has taken place along the Gaza Strip since 2014, when Israeli forces actually entered the Gaza Strip. Now, even though it appears at this point that this bout of fighting has actually subsided already through some type of ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, it's still very interesting to explore the circumstances around this escalation, to help better understand the actual dynamics that have been influencing those relations between Gaza and Israel in recent past. So one of the notable things about what happened yesterday is that the initial volleys of fire originated from militants loyal to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Now, within Gaza, there are several different groups that hold some notable military capability. The largest of which, of course, is Hamas, which officially governs the Gaza Strip. But the second largest group, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, also has a very significant role to play, especially when it comes to this type of violence. But they are not so much politically represented. Aside from these two groups, there are other groups such as the Popular Resistance Committees, which originate from the former Fatah movement. But these groups basically are kind of shut out of power by Hamas, and they can use this violence as a tool to try and either get their way within Gaza or to directly influence those relationships between Hamas and Israel. So what happened yesterday is that after that initial volley by militants loyal to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, over the course of the day, the mortar and rocket fire intensified and actually started to include these other groups such as Hamas and the Popular Resistance Committees as well. Now this is very notable because these type of escalations are one of the ways in which Palestinian Islamic Jihad or other actors can twist Hamas's hand. Hamas at this point in time is actually looking for stable relationships with Israel, and information has also come out that they are trying to negotiate a longer-term ceasefire with Israel through intermediaries like Qatar and Egypt. But of course, actions like this from other groups within Gaza are highly disruptive to those efforts. One of the other things that plays into this is that as Hamas is trying to conduct pragmatic relationships with Israel, they also have to defend their role within Gaza. So when these type of escalations occur, they can't simply stand by and convict the violence, because they would stand to lose their legitimacy over the resistance against Israel within Gaza. And that's one of the reasons that we actually did see Hamas coming out yesterday and together with Palestinian Islamic Jihad convict the Israeli actions and approve of the Gaza rocket and mortar fires against Israeli communities near the Gaza Strip. Now, this is a dynamic that's taken place for a long time within the Gaza Strip, but over the past year, we've actually seen an escalation of these smaller groups within Gaza to try and influence that broader relationship between Hamas and Israel. We've seen, for example, several IED attacks or attempts at IED attacks along the border fence, as well as a creative use of kites for arsenal attacks or drones, as well as, of course, the more traditional mortar and rocket fire that we know from Gaza. These groups are basically using these tools to try and trigger escalations such as this one, to try and improve their own standing within Gaza, as well as force themselves to be part of the discussions on larger, broader strategies towards Israel. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad is the second largest group within Gaza and represents a notable military capability, but it is locked out of the actual negotiations with Israel. And that's also something that we saw in communications out of Palestinian Islamic Jihad yesterday, when they basically told Israel that if they wanted to negotiate a ceasefire, they should be talking to the Palestinian Islamic Jihad rather than indirectly through Hamas. Of course, that's a position that neither Israel nor Hamas want to grant the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but those tensions continue to cause escalations like this. Of course, this escalation doesn't happen in isolation. There are broader dynamics playing out across the Middle East that, for example, see the competition between Israel and Iran within the Syrian theater. Now, of course, groups like Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and the Popular Resistance Committees, they all have very close relationships with groups like Hezbollah or the State of Iran. So there is a potential for Iran to actually try to leverage these militants within Gaza as a way to pressure Israel to try and dissuade them from the air campaign that they are conducting in Syria against Hezbollah and Iranian targets. Of course, the nature of this very escalation that took place yesterday and overnight, it having been very brief, suggests that there's no real broader geopolitical objective being chased here, and that this was more about those Palestinian dynamics than anything else. But of course, the fact that those broader geopolitical tensions exist, as well as the trends that we've seen over the past year of continued attempts at forcing these escalations, suggests that the situation between Gaza and Israel will continue to be fairly precarious, and that we could see additional rounds of escalation like this one in the future.